Kael, the stranger rogue who saw her, who believed in the fire she carried. Enough. Arya's voice cut through the night like a blade. Both men froze, eyes snapping to her. She raised her chin, every ounce of pride burning through her. I will not be fought over like prey, not by either of you. The words silenced the clearing. For the first time, Damian looked uncertain. And Kael looked at her with something close to respect. Far from the forest, in the Silvercrest Council Hall, Elder Magnus sat alone, a single candle flickering on the long oak table. A thin smile curved his lips. The curse unfolds, he murmured, eyes glinting like ice. The Alpha's rejection, the Luna's rise, the Rogue's interference, all pieces moving exactly where the Moon Goddess had designed them to go. Magnus pulled a parchment from the shadows, lines of ancient script shimmering faintly. He traced the words with a gnarled finger. The rejected one shall awaken, the Alpha shall burn, and through blood the balance will break. He leaned back, shadows dancing across his face. Yes, soon the Pax will fall into the fire, and from the ashes a new reign will rise. Back in the forest, Damian's beater, Marcus, finally reached the clearing, warriors at his heels. Their eyes widened at the sight before them, Arya standing with rogues, Damian's aura crashing against Kael's. Alpha, Marcus said sharply. This is treason. She cannot— Silence, Damian snapped, his eyes never leaving Arya. But Marcus's gaze lingered on her, something dark flickering in his expression. He bowed low, but his fists clenched at his sides. Arya caught it. The hunger, the ambition. Marcus wasn't loyal to Damian, not truly. The revelation sent a shiver down her spine. This war wasn't just between her, Damian, and Kael. Shadows within the pack itself were shifting, waiting. And Arya was at the center of it all. The silence, after Arya's declaration, hung heavy in the night. But Damian was not a man who could be silenced for long. His lips curved into a dangerous smile, one that didn't reach his eyes. You've grown bold, Arya, bold enough to stand beside a rogue? His gaze flicked to Kael, filled with venom. You think he'll protect you from me? He can't even protect himself, Kael smirked, his hand brushing against the hilt of the blade strapped to his thigh. Funny. For a man so sure of his strength, you look desperate to prove it. A growl tore from Damian's chest, deep and feral. In an instant, his body began to shift, bones snapping, muscles tearing, fur sprouting as his wolf surged forward. The massive silver beast that emerged radiated raw power, his eyes glowing like molten steel. Gasps erupted from the rogues. Even Kael stiffened, his wolf stirring beneath his skin. But Arya, she couldn't look away. The mate bond pulled, aching, reminding her of what was hers, and yet never hers. Kael's wolf pushed at the surface, amber eyes flashing, as he prepared to meet Damian's challenge. The clearing became a battlefield of charged energy, the air electric with the promise of blood. Damian! Arya cried, her voice cracking. For a heartbeat, his wolf's glowing eyes flicked to hers. Something unreadable flashed there, pain, longing, rage. Then he lunged. Kael shifted mid-step, fore erupting, claws slashing forward. The two wolves collided with an explosion of snarls and blood. The fight had begun. Arya's knees buckled as the clash of teeth and claws shook the earth. Her wolf screamed inside her, torn in two directions toward Damian, her fated mate. and toward Kale, the rogue who had stood beside her when no one else did. She clutched her chest, gasping. The pain wasn't just emotional, it was physical. A surge of heat pulsed through her veins, searing like fire. Her storm-gray eyes flickered once, twice before silver light shimmered within them. Lila's words echoed in her mind. "You're not weak, Arya. There's more in you than you know." Her wolf howled inside her, chains rattling, breaking. A burst of energy exploded outward, forcing rogues and warriors alike to stumble back. For a moment, even Damien and Kyle froze mid-battle, their wolves glancing at her with shock. Arya stood tall, her hair whipping in the wind, her eyes glowing pure silver under the moonlight. The air itself bent to her presence. The hidden alpha bloodline had stirred, and everyone in the clearing felt it. "Impossible," Marcus muttered under his breath, watching Arya with wide eyes. His heart pounded not in awe, but in greed. If she truly carried alpha blood, if she awakened that power fully, she could be both the greatest threat and the greatest weapon. His gaze shifted to Damien, locked in combat with Kyle, too blinded by rage to see what was happening. Marcus clenched his fists. This changes everything. Behind him, a few council warriors exchanged uneasy looks. Elder Magnus's whispered warnings came to mind. When the rejected one awakens, the Pax will tremble, and the throne will no longer belong to the Stormrider line. The seeds of betrayal had been planted. "Arya," Kale's wolf rasped, blood dripping from his muzzle as he glanced at her glowing form. For the first time, fear flickered in his amber eyes. Not fear of Damien, fear of her. Damien's silver wolf snarled, his body trembling, not with weakness, but with something far more dangerous. His mate, his rejection, his curse. And now, her power. Arya's voice rang clear, steady despite the storm inside her. "Enough." The word rolled across the clearing with alpha command. Both wolves froze, their instincts betraying them, forced into stillness. Gasps erupted. Warriors and rogues alike bowed their heads involuntarily. Arya Blackwood, the rejected Luna, had just commanded alphas. The clearing was silent. Every wolf present, rogue, warrior, and council alike, felt the weight of her command. The words hadn't just been spoken. They had burned through the bond, wrapping around their instincts, forcing obedience. Arya's chest rose and fell with ragged breaths. The silver glow in her eyes pulsed once, then steadied. She could feel it, power thrumming in her veins, wild and untested. Damien's wolf growled low, straining against the command, but even he had stilled. His eyes locked on hers, glowing silver against silver. His chest heaved, fury warring with something else, something raw. "She commanded me." The thought ripped through him like claws. No one commanded Alpha Damien Stormrider, no one. Yet her words had bound his wolf. Marcus Vaylor stepped forward from the crowd, bowing his head just enough to hide the glint in his eyes. "Arya Blackwood," his voice carried, smooth and falsely respectful. "What you've shown here tonight cannot be ignored. The moon goddess herself has chosen you." Gasps rippled again. Some wolves nodded, whispering Luna, Alpha, chosen. Damien snapped his head toward Marcus, a snarl ripping from his throat. Enough. But for the first time, his words carried less weight than hers had. Marcus smirked inwardly. He had seen it, the hesitation, the weakness, the fracture in the pack's faith, and in that fracture he saw opportunity. Damien shifted back into human form, blood streaking his chest, fury etched into every line of his face. He strode toward her, towering, dangerous, yet there was no mistaking the faint tremor in his steps. "Arya," he growled, his voice husky, raw. "You don't know what you're doing. That power, it will consume you." Her eyes locked on his, glowing still. For the first time, she saw it clearly, the bond pulling at him too. He felt it. He always had. "Maybe," she whispered, her voice steady, "but at least I won't let it chain me to someone who calls me weak." The words cut sharper than blades. His jaw tightened, his silver eyes burning with conflict. He wanted to drag her close, to claim what was his, and yet he had already thrown it away. The mate bond twisted, tormenting them both. That night, as the pack dispersed, whispers followed Arya like shadows. Rejected, chosen, alpha, curse. She returned to her chamber, exhaustion heavy in her bones. But when she closed her eyes, the world shifted. A vision. She stood in a vast, endless forest, the moon blazing silver above. From the shadows emerged Selene, the moon goddess herself. Her hair shimmered like starlight, her eyes holding galaxies within them. "Daughter of blood and chains," Selene's voice echoed. "The rejection was not your end, it was your beginning. You are the key to what has long been bound. And those who scorned you," the goddess's gaze hardened, piercing, "will kneel or they will burn." The night was restless. The Silvercrest Pack's halls, usually silent after a gathering, were alive with whispers. Wolves who had once laughed at Arya now spoke her name with fear, with awe. Damien Stormrider stood alone on the balcony of his chamber, silver moonlight painting his bare chest, his skin still streaked with battle scars. His fists tightened against the railing as he stared toward the distant woods where Arya's chamber lay. Her voice haunted him. "At least I won't let it chain me to someone who calls me weak." The words struck deeper than claws. He'd rejected her to protect himself, to protect the pack. A Luna without strength was a liability, he had convinced himself of that. Yet tonight she had commanded alphas. Tonight she had silenced him. His wolf stirred within. "She is ours, always ours." Damien's jaw clenched, his heart a battlefield of rage, guilt, and need. He had thought rejection would sever the bond, but instead it had twisted tighter, burning hotter. "Arya," he whispered to the night, a confession no one else would hear. "I should never have let you go." Far from the Alpha's chambers, in the edge of the forest, Chaol Duskbane leaned against an ancient oak, his amber eyes reflecting the moonlight. He had watched the night's chaos unfold with silent satisfaction. Arya approached him cautiously, her storm-grey eyes still faintly glowing from her awakening. "You shouldn't be here," she murmured. "If Damien finds you," Chaol's smirk was sharp, dangerous, "let him. He already lost you once. He doesn't get a second chance." Her chest tightened. She should have walked away. But something about Chaol's presence, wild, untamed, drew her in like a flame. "You saw it tonight, didn't you?" he said softly. "What you are, what you could become. The packs won't follow Damien forever. They'll follow strength, they'll follow you." Arya's breath caught. His words echoed the truth she had felt when the power surged inside her. But could she really rise? Could she claim a throne never meant for her? Chaol stepped closer, his voice low, intimate. Let me help you unlock it. Together, we can build something greater than any Alpha's reign. Her pulse raced, torn between temptation and fear. For every part of her that longed for freedom, another whispered Damien's name in the dark. Unseen by either of them, a pair of cold blue eyes watched from the trees. Elder Magnus, the council's shadow, lingered where the moonlight did not touch. He had heard enough. The goddess's prophecy was unfolding quicker than expected, and if Arya truly embraced her alpha blood, if Chaol stood beside her, the balance of power across the packs would crumble. Magnus's lips curved into a thin smile. The storm has begun, he murmured, and storms can be steered. Sleep did not come easily. Arya tossed beneath her sheets, her body aching from the surge of power, her mind replaying Chaol's words. Together, we can build something greater. But when her eyes finally drifted closed, she wasn't in her room anymore. She stood in a moonlit clearing. Silver mist curled at her feet, the air thick with the scent of pine and storm. Her heart pounded. She knew this place. It wasn't real. It was the bond. A shadow emerged from the fog. Broad shoulders, silver eyes burning like fire. Arya. Her breath hitched. Damien, even in this dream, the bond dragged her toward him, raw and unbearable. He stepped closer, his hand lifting as though to touch her cheek, but he stopped, fingers trembling inches from her skin. You feel it too, he rasped, his voice breaking. The bond doesn't die, not even when I tried to kill it. Her chest ached. She wanted to scream at him, to tell him he was cruel, that he didn't deserve her. But her body betrayed her. Her wolf howled with longing. Damien, his eyes softened, anguish breaking through his ruthless mask. I was wrong. The words cracked the dream like thunder. But before she could respond, the forest shook. Silver chains erupted from the mist, coiling around her ankles, dragging her back. She screamed. He reached for her too late. Arya woke with a gasp, drenched in sweat, her heart clawing against. The next day, Chaol found her by the riverbank. His eyes lingered on the dark circles beneath hers. Bad dreams? He asked, his tone too knowing. She looked away. Something like that. Chaol crouched beside her, his presence steady, grounding. Then, it's time we stop dreaming and start fighting. You felt it that night, the power inside you. But if you don't learn to wield it, it'll eat you alive. He drew a dagger, the blade glinting. He held it out. Your bloodline isn't just alpha, it's old. Older than most packs remember. That strength can command, but it can also destroy. Her fingers hesitated before wrapping around the hilt. The moment she touched it, her eyes flickered silver again. Chaol's lips curved into a dangerous smile. Good. Let's see what you're really capable of. Back at the Silvercrest stronghold, Damien slammed his fist against the council table, splintering the wood. She is mine, he growled. Marcus Vaylor leaned back in his chair, unruffled. She was yours. You rejected her, Alpha. And now she awakens as something else. Perhaps the moon goddess had other plans. The words stoked Damien's fury, but beneath it burned something worse, fear. If Arya truly embraced her power, if Chaol stood beside her, she would become untouchable. His beta's voice was calm, almost mocking. What will you do, Alpha? Kill her or fight for her? Damien's silver eyes blazed. fight for her, but deep down he feared it was already too late. The forest was silent except for the rush of the river. Chaol led her to a circle of stones carved with ancient runes, their glow faint in the morning light. "This is where rogues once swore blood oaths," Chaol explained, his amber eyes fixed on her. "And where you'll learn whether your wolf will bend or break." Arya's stomach knotted. "And if I fail?" His smirk was sharp. "Then I'll drag you back out before it kills you." Probably. Before she could respond, the runes flared, silver and red. A pulse of energy slammed into her chest, forcing her knees to buckle. Her wolf howled, chains rattling inside her mind. Pain lanced through her veins. She dropped the dagger Chaol had given her, clutching her head. Memories her rejection, her humiliation. Damien's cold eyes flashed like fire. Then another memory, her mother's voice, soft but fierce. "Our blood is not weak, Arya. It only waits to rise." The chains inside her mind cracked. A surge of power tore free, silver light bursting from her skin. The runes blazed brighter, their glow bending toward her like subjects bowing before a queen. Chaol staggered back, his amber eyes wide with awe. "Moon's curse! You really are Alpha-born." Arya straightened, trembling but unbroken. Her storm-grey eyes shimmered silver, her voice steady. "Then let me learn to rule it." In the council hall, Elder Magnus stood before the assembled wolves, his hands clasped behind his back. "The girl is dangerous," he said calmly, though his blue eyes gleamed with hidden satisfaction. "If she grows unchecked, she could bring ruin to us all. Unless she is guided." Marcus Vaylor smirked. Guided or used? A ripple of unease spread through the room, but no one spoke against him. "Not yet," Magnus's voice dropped lower. "The prophecy is clear. The rejected one carries a bloodline that can unseat kings. Alpha Damien has already lost control of her. But if we strike now, if we bind her before she understands her strength..." He let the thought hang in the air like bait. Marcus's grin widened. "Then she becomes our weapon." That night, Arya collapsed into her bed, drained from training. But when sleep took her, the dream bond returned. Damien was waiting. This time, there were no chains, no mist, just him, standing close enough that she could feel the heat of his body, the storm of his emotions. "You're killing me, Arya," he said, his voice raw. "Every time you pull away, every time you look at him, it tears me apart." Her throat tightened. "You rejected me, Damien. You don't get to want me now." His silver eyes blazed, filled with something between fury and desperation. "I made a mistake, but you're mine. You'll always be mine." The words pulled at the bond, burning hot and cruel. She wanted to deny it, to scream, but her wolf shuddered, betraying her. And for one dangerous heartbeat, she almost believed him. The training ground deep in the woods reeked of old blood and ash. Chaol stood across from Arya, his amber eyes sharp, his stance relaxed but lethal. "Again," he ordered. Her chest heaved, sweat dripping down her temple. Her hands trembled around the dagger, its weight heavy in her grip. She had already pushed past exhaustion, but Chaol wasn't finished. "Your enemies won't care that you're tired," he snapped. "They'll strike when you're weakest, so fight." He lunged, Their blades clashed in a shower of sparks. Arya barely managed to block, the impact rattling her arms. Chaol's strikes were merciless, each one meant to break her guard, to break her. "Why are you holding back?" he growled. "You have power that could bring alphas to their knees, so why do you still fight like a pup?" Frustration surged. "Because I'm not a killer." Chaol slammed her back against a tree, his blade at her throat. His amber eyes burned with something darker than anger. "If you're not willing to spill blood, then you'll drown in it. Choose, Arya. Be the prey or the alpha." Her storm-grey eyes flared silver. A surge of raw power erupted from her, blasting Chaol back across the clearing. The ground split beneath her feet, the trees around her trembling. For a heartbeat, silence. Then Chaol staggered to his feet, wiping blood from his mouth, and he smiled. "That's it," he said softly. "That's the alpha I was waiting to see." In the Silvercrest Council Hall, tension rippled through the chamber. The elders whispered, Marcus smirked, and Magnus's cold eyes glittered. Damien rose to his full height, his aura crashing over them like a storm. "Enough." The room fell silent. "You whisper about Arya as though she belongs to you. She does not. She is mine." His silver gaze swept over the room, daring anyone to argue. "And anyone who thinks to use her against me will answer for it." Marcus leaned forward, voice silky. "And what if she no longer wants you, Alpha? What if she has already chosen another?" Damien's jaw clenched, fury sparking in his eyes. "Then I'll remind her. The bond doesn't break, not for her, not for me." But even as he spoke, a sliver of doubt gnawed at him. What if Marcus was right? What if her growing power and Chaol's shadow at her side pulled her beyond his reach? That night, Arya sat alone at the river's edge, her reflection shimmering in the moonlight. Her body ached from Chaol's brutal lessons. Her mind burned with Damien's words in the dream bond. 2 men, 2 paths. One bond she couldn't escape, one temptation she couldn't ignore. Her wolf paced inside her, restless, torn. For the first time in her life, she wasn't sure who she was fighting for herself, or the bond that chained her. The forest rustled. She tensed until a familiar figure stepped from the shadows. Damien, his silver eyes locked onto hers, burning with torment and need. "Arya," he said, his voice hoarse, "we need to talk." The air between them was electric, charged with everything unspoken. Arya rose to her feet, chin high, though her heart hammered. "You shouldn't be here," she said coldly. Damien stepped closer, his towering frame casting her in shadow. The moonlight caught the silver in his eyes. But this time they weren't cold, they burned with something hotter, darker. "Maybe not," he admitted, his voice low, raw, "but I couldn't stay away." Her breath caught despite herself. The bond tugged at her, cruel and relentless, but she clenched her fists, grounding herself in the memory of his words. "You don't deserve me." "You made your choice," she snapped. "You rejected me. Don't come crawling back now." His jaw tightened. "I rejected weakness, Arya, not you." The words stung, but before she could reply, he moved closer, close enough that she could feel the heat of him, smell the storm on his skin. "Do you think I don't feel it?" he growled, pressing a hand to his chest. "Every time you breathe, every time your heart beats, it's mine. You're mine, and nothing will change that. Arya's wolf whimpered inside her, aching for him, but she shoved the feeling down. Her storm-grey eyes flared silver. "You had me, Damien, and you threw me away." The words cracked through the night like thunder. His lips parted, his gaze dark with regret. For a heartbeat, silence hung between them. Then his hand lifted, brushing the air near her cheek, hesitating. His voice broke. "I was wrong." Before she could answer, before she could decide whether to shove him away or collapse into him, the trees rustled violently. Kyle burst into the clearing, eyes glowing amber, his wolf bristling just beneath the surface. His gaze flicked between them, sharp as a blade. "What the hell is this?" he snarled. Damien turned, his aura slamming outward, silver eyes blazing with territorial fury. "Get away from her," Kyle laughed darkly. "You don't get to give that order anymore, Alpha. You lost her the moment you cast her aside." Arya's chest heaved, her power sparking between them like a storm ready to break.